Hello, everyone. It's Michael Jaco with Unleashing Intuition Secrets, joined once again by Governor Kevin Hoyt. He's not officially the governor of Vermont, but we believe he is. So
self-identified. That's right. We said that for a long time. It's been a minute, Mike. Oh my God, what a crazy couple months, good, bad, and ugly. But
yeah.
How you been other than the obvious? Like busy, I see.
Yeah, some days just one step in front of the other, but pretty much making it, keeping the shows alive and staying focused best I can.
Yeah, no, you're doing a hell of a job. Like I said, it's all the latest and greatest. And did you see the writer for Simpsons, Stephen Papoon, died suddenly, right? So again, the people aren't going to be able to look for the Simpsons to the future to get the future anymore. They're going to have to watch Michael Jaco again. So yeah, that was a big deal. There's a lot of people, a lot of that. It's going around, I guess. Hollywood CEOs, execs. We still have people disappearing here in Vermont, our authorities. So a lot of, again, overwhelming. I can't even keep up anymore. You said you had something about Comey, right? What were you talking about, James Comey?
Yeah, James Comey, I guess, posted a 86-47. 86 is basically you're getting rid of somebody. If you're in the like bar business, or we say, or like when I was a security manager in a casino, 86 basically getting kicking somebody out. But the mafia and so forth, when they say 86, they mean kill. Now we know that James Comey, prosecuted a lot of mafia guys. So here we have James Comey talking about pretty much killing President Trump. And let's listen to what Tulsi Gabbard says about that.
We're taking this very seriously. As you mentioned, the Department of Homeland Security, and specifically Sean Curran, the current Secret Service director, a man who has been willing to lay down his life as the lead of President Trump's Secret Service detail for years now. He takes this seriously and is leading the investigation into this threat. There has to be accountability for this. There was a Rutgers study that just came out a little over a month ago, Jesse, that asked respondents their view on these calls to assassinate President Trump. And over 55% of respondents felt that murdering President Trump would be, quote unquote, somewhat justified. This is the effect of people like James Comey doing this kind of stuff. This study also pointed out that there is a quote unquote assassination culture that is starting to take over the views of what they call the extreme left. We, the American people, cannot take this lightly. Whatever your politics, we cannot allow people to get by without being held accountable for this kind of public call to assassinate the President of the United States.
Do you believe that Comey is goading you guys to come after him because he wants to be a political martyr? He wants to be set up so he can say, oh, look, we were right. Donald Trump is a dictator. They're coming after me. They're arresting me. They're interrogating me. I was just using my free speech.
Whatever his intent, I will tell you that there's a guy in Georgia who is issuing threats on my life about a month ago, and he's in jail today. Has been indicted with a crime, as he should have been, and he is in jail as we speak. So whatever James Comey intent, he and people like him need to be held to account according to the law, which is something that he claims to have given his life for and stands by the rule of law. Fantastic.
So see, they're pretty much taking this. They seem to be. Now, I think that James Comey has been dealt with long ago, and they're pretty much coming up with a public excuse, if you will, to take him down and finish the job. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, as always, I think Michael Jaco's spot on. His viewers are honored and benefited by watching your stuff. No, this is theater. I think Comey's gone too. How much more obvious do you get? In fact, that's been going around 86-45, 86-47. We've seen it over and over. So I think this is, again, just optics, pissing a lot of people off. What people got to watch out for, it's also fear porn. Get, the extreme far left and all that. It's more divide. Don't let that shit happen, right? It's not, again, I've been on the show, again, we were looking at the trans, terrorist cults. This is a real thing that's around here. That's not the LGBTQ community in general. That's not your average, the gay guy you work with, or, that community. That's more divide. So don't let that divide us, guys. And it's distraction. I don't know, Michael, we talked a little bit before we hit record here. What happened in Arizona was absolutely, I felt like I was watching the EBS, man. I did. Of course, I've got some behind the scenes attachments and everything going on in my life. But we had the Arizona legislators. This is mainstream media. This is on congressional floor. They had an all-day hearing, a legislative action to go after CPS, DCF, right? The courts. They were naming judges, literally naming judges. And the responses we were getting, again, from the legislators were awesome. Of course, they're legislators. Do you believe them? I think so. But we just hit a huge hurdle. This is mainstream media. CPS is trafficking our children. They're using the courts to do it. The judges, the prosecutors, law enforcement, they're complicit. Hey, I think I've heard this before somewhere. Maybe it was Michael Jaco show, right? RICO is starting to matter. I know in Vermont it's mattering, but I think that hurdle, again, you guys know this isn't going to get any smaller. It's going to get bigger. Jen Pataki, God rest her soul. We're going to circle back around to that. Just like Epstein, all this stuff is hitting all at the same time right now. So a lot of these distractions that we're seeing, absolutely correct. We shouldn't have, to make a assassination quote like that against the president is a high crime. It's obvious. That's what I'm saying. Over the top. I'm a politician and I'm going to take your guns. Or, we don't need any parental consent when they come to school. Those are over the top optics. Those are the bad guys, in case you haven't figured it out yet. So I think that's what you're seeing. I think this is all theater. All this happened 4 or 5 years ago when you reported it, Michael Jaco. And now the public's getting this narration. That's what I think.
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot more of these narrations, I think, come forward as time goes forward. But the only reason they're able to come out now is because they're really taking down the judicial, like you just described. They're coming after the judges. They're coming after all these people that handle the child movements. Kind of on YouTube, so we'll be a little careful. How we talk about this stuff. Human trafficking. Yeah, so we'll probably see a lot of this stuff move forward very quickly. I think over the coming days and weeks. A lot of people being taken down, like we saw in Wisconsin, that one judge that was basically went against ICE. And then when New Jersey, we saw those Congress people that went against an ICE facility. Right. We have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is talking tough, and they're actually talking about maybe arresting her as well.
I think it's hilarious. And again, Vermont, #1 in corruption. I still over 200 elected officials. When was that, Michael? That was a year ago. Anybody keeping score? I'm still here. I got charged again last week. We'll talk about that a little later in the show. But again, Vermont, these guys know it. These really old, white, decrepit, dying cabal. They know this is coming. In January of 2025, coincides with Donald Trump getting in office. They had a House bill hit the floor here. It's getting right at the verge of passing, but Senate bill now, Senate S0012 in Vermont. I'm going to call it the cover-up bill. This is latest news as of 5:15. Again, this started in January, but they're talking about sealing the records for any criminal prosecutions. Now they want to seal the records. I know why, because they know what's coming. They're all about to be charged if they haven't been charged already. So again, these are laws to try to protect themselves. That's the system. Who makes the laws? The lawmakers, they're the complicit, right? So, and then that's kind of a good lead-in. Sealed records. Speaking of sealed records, did you know autopsies can be sealed? Did you know that? I didn't even know that.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
No. Our prosecutor here in Bennington, the guy that was coming after me, Jared Bianche, married to Merrill Batt. That's the old town lawyer, Rob Wilmington, Vermont digger, human trafficking ring #2 up in Paulet. That's again, they're married. He works for my prosecutor down here in Bennington. That's the guy that came after me. His wife died, mid-30s, perfectly healthy, nothing really wrong, just died mysteriously. I don't know. Sealed autopsy. She just died. They don't have to tell us. It's kind of weird. Before he
That is
married
weird,
Laurel
yeah.
Ball. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. So again, speaking of sealed records, this leads us back to Paulette, Vermont, where we have, again, the law officer that's not really a law officer. I caught a guy who's been impersonating a police officer for over 2 decades that was hired by a 2-time convicted police chief. That's Thomas Cavino, is the cop that's not a cop, and Bill Humphreys, William Wild Bill Humphreys from Fairhaven, Vermont. I've been lighting that stuff up, Mike. And again, we kind of caught him. We know what's going on now. But that's kind of where I wanted to get into some screen shares. I sent you a couple screen shares. You want to talk about a cop that's not really a cop and the ramifications for all the towns that he's worked in? Does that sound fun?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Pull up a screen share and we'll go to some of Thomas Cavino's. What I'm going to show you guys is Thomas Cavino's work record, his work history, and then I'm going to show you his training history from the same source. That's the Vermont Criminal Justice Council and Police Academy. And Michael's got them out of order. That's an OPP. Flip through a couple slides there, Mike. There should be one. I numbered them, actually. I don't know if you can see numbers or if you're just clicking through. Number 1, there we go. I don't know if you can zoom in a little bit for people, but you'll see this is Thomas Cavino, and there's a couple different things. Again, he works for Rupert, Vermont. He works for Fairhaven, Vermont, and then he started out Paulette, Vermont. He's the constable today, and he started his career with Chad Schmidt, actually Gary Forrest, Chad's predecessor. That's the Vermont Sheriff's Association, another illegal shell company. Well, again, he started back in 2001 and 2 with Chad Schmidt. So the interesting part right here, go to the next slide. I'll show you so there's his history, work history. We'll have to come back to this in a minute, but I want to show you his training records. Oh, here's a good one. Go to the next one. I'm not ready for that one yet either. Well, I guess we can actually zoom into that last one, Mike. Go back to that one because this is interesting. If you look at, again, it's hard to see, but you'll see this is when Thomas Cavino was actually certified as an officer, meaning he could pull people over and arrest them and act like an officer, right? So he was certified on April 11th, 2023. That's very, very important. Again, the source is the Criminal Justice Council. So April 11th, 2023, Tom Cavino officially became a cop. I think that's falsified documents, but remember that date. Go to the next slide. I think there's one more. Is there another one? There you go.
So we're looking for, okay.
Yeah. So again, there it is. You can confirm this is on his training record. There it is. Tier 2 officer, level 1 officer. Sorry, 4/11/2023. Right. So that's when he became a cop. Just to confirm it, we had the training record. We had his certifications. They all match. Now go back to that last one. Because no, that's not it either. Shit, Mike. Go 2 more to the right and see what happens. We only got 7 to go through. There's only a couple. We're going to talk about Joe in a minute. Next one. It's got to be the last one, right?
That's the video.
No. Okay. No, it's got to be. I missed it somewhere, and I screwed up this whole smooth presentation that I wanted. There's a training. Is that it? We're missing one. So okay, go back to the right. One more slide. And I'll show you the point that I was trying to make. This, again, if you look at his record, this is his work record. Again, you see the town of Fairhaven hired him in 2020. What was that date? 2022, right? Till current as a constable. Well, the problem is he wasn't certified again until 2023. I just showed you that. So from 2022 to 2023, we had a cop that was, even his credentials, the fake credentials, were wrong during that time period. Anybody that was harassed, targeted, pulled over, ticketed, arrested, incarcerated, hospitalized by Tom Cavino in that time, there it is. He couldn't have been a constable in 2022 when he wasn't certified until 2023, right?
Right.
Is that an easy one? And these are per the records. So there it is again, 20. And again, if you look at the The bottom one is really interesting. That Chad Schmidt, 2001 until 2002. Now let's go to the next slide, which is the bigger one. One more. That one. So you'll see this is his training records. If you look from 2001 and 2002, he was barely out of basic training. He has correction officers. That's where he's, smuggling cocaine into our prisoners at Rutland Corrections with his buddy Tom Cavino, or Bill Humphreys, the police chief again. But then it's basic training, a part-time officer all the way. Look at it, 2001, 2002. He just completed basic training in, May of 2022. So he didn't even take his psych evaluation. That's the MMPI, if you look up higher, until 2023. So Michael, how are you? You just looked at his criminal record or his work history a couple times. He was a sheriff, a full-blown sheriff deputy in 2001. How is that possible if he didn't take his psych evaluation until 2013? 12 years later.
I thought his movement up the rank was very, very unusual.
Well, and you can't, it's impossible. You can't be a sheriff without a psych evaluation, which he didn't take for 12 years later. And you just saw he wasn't certified to be a cop until 2023. That's 23 years after he was a sheriff. And it goes back to, again, Chad Schmidt and human trafficking when you follow the money. And if you look at that MMPI right there, again, Tom Cavino, he took his first one in 2023 or 2013. And then there's a gap till 2022. That's very unusual for police officers. Again, you'll see down below, it's like he's got 2 or 3 things in 2001, 2002. The rest of his training record's the same way. They have to take training all the time, 2 or 3 classes a year. But here we have a big gap. Why? Well, that would be, go back to that first slide. That would be the abuse prevention. One more, I think. Didn't you? One more. There's it right there. That's an OOP, an order of protection in New York State. And you'll see right there, it's against Tom Cavino, the cop. So again, this guy had not 1, but 2 orders of protection. We call those abuse prevention orders, right? So, and again, this is that gap, the reason for the gap. By the way, when you get an abuse prevention order in New York State, they're pretty serious about guns over there. The last box is, can this person have firearms? And the answer is no. Mr. Cavino is not allowed to have firearms, and that's for a 5-year term. So again, you'll see the date on this is 2016. And then afterwards, they went back to court, and the judge felt that someone was still at risk. Somebody still needed protection because they doubled that. They continued the order. So again, that would take us all the way to 2026. Which means Tom Cavino cannot have a firearm, but we give him a badge and a firearm here in Vermont State. Again, kind of scary stuff. And he's never been a cop. Let's go back to the other slides. Go back to the right now.
So that means they were using him for something, evidently.
You're getting at it. Again, if you want to traffic drugs and money and children, then you need to control law enforcement. Keep on going a little farther, a little farther. We've been through all these now, been through them. All right, Joseph Gunther. I think, let me see what's left. Go a couple more. Okay, here we go, because this gets interesting too. This is the certification. This is how he became a police officer in 2023. That's when his buddy William Humphreys was able to hire him in Fairhaven. So how did they do this? And again, we're talking racketeering. It's a criminal conspiracy. It's multiple towns, multiple judges and law enforcement and prosecutors. So David Ricard is the lead constable in Paulet, Vermont. So David Ricard signed off. There it is. You can see it. Tom Cavino did an NCIC background check and he passed. He even did a polygraph test. There it is, 4/4/22, right? That's why he became a cop again in 23 is what happened. But this is a fake document because, again, there's backdoor records. If you do an NCIC background check, it's confidential. It's personal records. Not everybody can do that. So if I was going to go in and do a background check on Michael Jaco, I would have to log in. They'd see I went in on this day and I looked and checked on Michael and, I did my background check. No one ever did a background check on Tom Cavino. So I went in February of this year, the end of February, I went and I met with Dave Ricard. And just for the record, I think Dave Ricard's a good guy. He answered my calls. He called me back. He gave me information. He told me about Bill Humphreys and Tom Cavino. I went to him and I asked him, how is this possible? He's got 2 abuse prevention orders. It's impossible. And he kind of went into a panic. And since then, he hasn't talked to me, by the way. But he told me he didn't do the background check. It was done by Fairhaven, Vermont, right? That's back to Bill Humphreys, the dirty police chief. So after he told me that, by the way, he had a heart attack and then he retired, right? So that leads us to Fairhaven, Vermont. Now we can go to the next slide and show Mr. Gunter. Where's Mr. Gunter? So now we have
is that the video you want to watch?
No, not yet. Go back the other direction. There's a picture of Joseph Gunter. There he is. I mean, just his suits alone, I want to smack this guy. I really do. And he is such a talent. Yeah. This is the town manager for Fairhaven, Vermont. So what we did is now we've tracked down what I think is falsified police certifications for a cop that was never a cop. 20 years worth, right? So I went to the town and I said, hey, who did the background check that the other guy signed off in? And I want a copy of the polygraph. Can I get a receipt? You guys paid for that? I need a receipt. Joe Gunter here responded. And Joe said that's confidential information. That's personal stuff. They don't have to share it, right? So again, I went to a select board meeting, been hitting a couple select board meetings, went to a select board meeting in Fairhaven, got thrown out. Supposed to give you 2 minutes. I made it 1 minute and 10 seconds, Michael. And then they threw me out, threatened me with arrest. And Joseph Gunter didn't want to answer my FOIA. I put in again, Freedom of Information Act request for information for those 2 things. Who did the NCIC? And give me the receipt. That's pretty easy. So I sued them. I went to Superior Court and they're going to have to tell us. Now, again, an automatic, I won. I already won. It's on my right to know that. It's your right as the public. So they're going to have to answer. The problem is they can't because nobody ever did it. And I also sued Mr. Gunter personally, Joseph Gunter, and then Glenn Travers, who is the select board chair. One of the things I've noticed as I've gone to these select board meetings over the year, they limit the public. They control everything. They give you 2 minutes if you're lucky, and it's always interrupted, and they don't let you get your piece out. They control everything. That's unconstitutional. It's against the First Amendment. So I'm teaching Mr. Glenn Travers, the select board chair in Fairhaven, and Joseph Gunter, this guy on screen. We're going to teach him about the First Amendment, the freedom of speech. So I sued the town of Fairhaven for $1. And then the other 2 gentlemen, I think it was $10,000 and $5,000 personally for trying to infringe on my freedom of speech at a select board meeting. It's against their own laws and procedures. So that's where we are with Fairhaven and Paulette. And again, David and the heart attack and all these different things. We're asking for a default in court now. It should be, I think, pretty easy and pretty big. And this does lead to bigger things, Michael. Again, I sued all these people. The First Amendment, we're tearing it up in court, like I said, in Fairhaven, Paulette, Rupert. This affects Castleton, Vermont. Again, it leads back to Bennington, Vermont. This takes out 3 towns at least, if not 4, by proxy. Again, we've got an officer that's not an officer. And what happened is Chad Schmidt, my sheriff, again, I'm the reporting party, multi-state federal RICO investigation. Chad, back in 2001, needed a whole crew so they could run drugs and children. He needed cops. He needed cop friends. They have to control law enforcement to do this stuff. So he picked people like Wild Bill Humphreys and Thomas Cavino, and the towns were perfectly aware of it. Again, the town of Paulette, Vermont, that's where I was most recently. They knew in October Tom Cavino, the cop that's not a cop, was talking about bringing Bill back to train him because he wasn't certified. That's how we caught him on public access television. He said, I want to remind you, I got out of law enforcement in 2002. This is a guy in a uniform with a badge on. What do you mean you got out of law enforcement? This is 2024 at the time. So that popped my interest, and I just started looking at these records. It's all from the same source. You don't get any higher. It's a Vermont Criminal Justice Council and Police Academy. This is his work history versus his training records. They don't match. I think this goes back, again, Rick Gothier and Sunrise Daycare. That's my old chief of police here in Bennington. after they covered up sexual misconduct at Sunrise Daycare. That's the matching EIN, matching. It's got a pedophile symbol per the. We've been over this 1,000 times on your show, Michael.
Yeah.
He retired under controversy. Then he went on to run the Vermont Police Academy, the Vermont Criminal Justice Center, the exact people that I'm getting the record from. And I'm going back to try to get them to do something, but they're complicit. Just like I brought it back to my sheriff. This leads back to, I hope he's a good guy now, my new sheriff, but it leads back to my Bennington County sheriff. This is so big. And Paula, again, is where we had the Brian Crossman mass murder. We had a homicide where, again, they killed a chair for the Paula Select Board, his wife, his kid. It's pretty graphic. Again, they blamed his son. His son was posting as me. His son was posting as Daniel Banye. His son is related to Bill Humphreys. And he's also related, he's the stepson to Ernie Bassett, who was the chief of police in Granville, New York. So when this murder went down, first on scene was Granville, New York. That's suspicious to me. Why was a New York department first on scene for a Vermont mass murder when our state police had already had the person in custody and were talking to him? But then he disappeared and they hid him out in New York State for a little while. He just got off. Again, he posted, I got a post from him after the murder saying, I'm going to get away with it too because I'm cuckoo. Kid had mental problems and whatever. And Vermont Digger, my favorite magazine, they just reported he collected almost $500,000 from his father's death settlement. What is wrong in Vermont state? These are so obvious, but nobody seemed to care or do anything about it until now. And I'm going after my state's attorney. I'm going after these people. We've connected all these human trafficking rings. We've identified 4 of them now in Vermont state. And they're all connected through law enforcement, through, again, prosecutors, and really the courts is what we're finding out, just like they were saying in Arizona. Whether it's educational kidnapping, they use the schools, and you want to homeschool or your kids aren't vaccinated, we'll bring into medical kidnapping. The schools are involved, the hospitals are involved, the banks are involved. We got the Bank of Bennington, all these things. Whatever it is, they go through the courts. The judges, remember Donald Trump talking about how important the judges were?
Yep.
I think that's who's running. Well, I know it's not think anymore. These are accusations now, the allegations. What's the difference? These are facts. I've got all the receipts. I've been bringing them here on your show for years and years. And again, I think we're actually getting somewhere. We're getting progress. They're trying to make laws to cover up their crimes. Again, the same every time I call these people out. It's the same in Bennington and Fairhaven. When I started talking about this stuff, they gave these guys awards. They won awards, Officer of the Year, and this award and that award. And the Mothers Against Drunk Driving, I think, gave Tom one because he pulled over so many people. All these towns are so happy because he stopped so many speeders and they made so much money. I'm going to repeat, anybody that's had contact ever in any county in Vermont state with Thomas Cavino acting as a police officer, you were wrongfully arrested. If you were, again, targeted, harassed, pulled over, ticketed, arrested, incarcerated, hospitalized, it was a wrongful arrest and your due compensation. Did your insurance go up? Did you get points on your license? Did it cost you a day of work? Did you have to pay a fee? Did you have to pay a fine? We got the Daniel Banye gun grab right there, land grab in Paula too. Thomas Cavino beat the living hell out of Daniel. He's still in and out of the hospital. They stole his land. They threw his family, a judge, back to judicial. They gave him a permit to have a gun school. 2 years after they issued the permit, they revoked it. They set him up. They used him to ban militias. No more militias in Vermont because that'd be constitutional. It's the same people. It's the same human traffickers. And Daniel Banye was beaten to shit by Thomas Cavino. Daniel Banye's owed a lot of money. And I'm going to, everybody watching, the police is the municipality. The towns knew about this. The towns are involved. The towns are all those illities that they don't like. Responsibility, liability. So, and again, what I want to tell other Vermonters is I don't think they can hurt you anymore. I've softened them up, right? That video that I was going to show you, Michael, we can play that here in a second. But okay. This is I go into a select board meeting. You guys have seen it. They're on their feet. They're screaming. They take the mic. They call the cops. I get thrown out, all sorts of crazy stuff going on, right? I just sued them for that. And again, I'm winning. They know that I've got. So I want to show you the new meeting. I want to show you, I just went on May 13th. Yeah, I think it was the 12th, May 12th, maybe Tuesday, whatever it was.
It's like 13th.
Yeah, I went to again, back to a Paulette select board meeting. These guys know that they're guilty, but I want to show you this 3 minutes and again, the reaction. And again, you guys can talk now, finally. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, my name's Kevin Hoyt. I run for Vermont State Governor. I've got a public for Freedom of Information Act public FOIA for you guys. And if you don't mind, I brought Mr. Cavino's records in. I met Mr. Cavino for the first time tonight. Didn't even shake my hand. I thought that was kind of odd. But I just want to review some records. You guys can look at that FOIA at your earliest convenience. You'll have 3 days to answer it. But if you look at the documents that I just gave you, there's 2 documents sent me under the Criminal Justice Center. Want to look, Mr. Beecher, you specifically?
I'm talking to you. I'll look at that later.
Okay, well, we've got one sheet of paper here. And again, we've got credential right off the bat. It's from Criminal Justice. It says, Mr. Cavino, he is absolutely certified as of April 11th of 2023. If you look at the records from the same source, again, you'll see up here, it's confirmed down here. That's when he completed his basic training. That's when he was qualified to be an officer on April 11th, 2023. But you notice up here under his work history, you guys hired him as a constable in June of 2022. So again, part of that FOIA is we're going to have to go back and look because every single person that has been harassed, targeted, pulled over, taken, arrested, incarcerated, or hospitalized by Mr. Cavino is entitled to compensation. The worst part of this, again, it's going to go back on the taxpayers, but you guys are aware of this. You guys admitted that in your October of the 2024 select board meeting. That's when Mr. Cavino was asking to bring Bill Humphreys back. That brings us to top number 2 is the certification. It was signed off by Mr. David McCarran here as a head constable, but it's impossible. Again, if you look here, his record started with the Bennington Police Department or the Bennington Sheriff back in 2001. He didn't even take a psych evaluation until 2013. How was he a sheriff 13 years later or 13 years before he was an officer?
Thank you for joining us tonight.
Okay.
Appreciate your information.
I appreciate you guys. Appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
So,
3 days. Leave them.
That was plain going.
so the guy with the mustache and the beard in the back, the cop, that was Cavino.
Yeah, that was the first time I ever got to meet him.
Yeah, he looked like a bad hombre.
Yeah, the town knows too. And the meeting again, what do you say? Well, they couldn't say nothing. I told Jimmy, we kind of laughed. Of course, country boy talk. I said, Jimmy, we snuck into their camp at night. They even knew we were coming, but we snuck in real quiet and we knifed 2 of them. We gut stabbed them in their beds. And then we let all their horses go and got the hell out of Dodge. We got away with it. But again, after all this stuff happened, back to the child trafficking, because that's what this is. I've got another friend. I'm going to give him a shout out, Nicholas and Jenna Reed. They're local to Bennington, DCF, and the courts are stealing their 2nd child. So again, it's a whole nightmare of a story. I got involved with Nick. Nick is disabled and he's in poverty. So he's an easy target for the state. After they take your 1st child, per statute in Vermont, that gives them the right to come in and be involved if you have another child. So they just had, again, we have 2 special needs parents. They just had a beautiful, healthy daughter. And when she arrived to this world, there was 2 armed officers, hospital security, and DCF waiting. I had a huge issue with that. Nick has every right to be a parent. Again, I've seen the prosecutors. It's the same judges, same prosecutors, same people, whether it's, Munchausen by proxy is one they use. And one doctor can't diagnose that. That takes a whole team and years. And they set people up. If they can't steal your kid that way, they'll come after you in criminal court and they'll lock you up. They're taking kids in Vermont state. So I got involved. And again, I can't talk too much about it, but essentially when Nick had his baby, let's just say I guess I can't even get out of this. I don't know how to talk about this the right way. I was charged and arrested for allegedly going to my hospital and seeing a newborn baby. That's my latest crime, allegedly. And again, because of that, I posted, a picture and told Nick's story and said, hey, we can't let this happen. I think I had, 157 shares and 280 comments the first day. First comment started, yeah, DCF took my 2 children. So it lit the community up. People are ready and they're talking and they're telling their stories. One of the petitioners or one of the people started a petition to remove my state's attorney, Erica Marthridge, the blood clotted justice. You heard me again for years, right? I'm going after Erica. I've been after Erica for a long time. It's official, but she's after me too. So this is the prosecutor who just hemmed me up. Again, my crime this time is going to the hospital to see a newborn baby. I didn't even see anybody. There was no confrontation. Last time it was trying to report felony gun crimes. Time before that, it was picking up a dead deer skull, right? Well, again, if I got caught trafficking fentanyl or 400 bags of heroin, they would let me out. I'd be out tomorrow, right? We've seen this, the recidivism. It's the courts and the prosecutors are really the key. And this is every town USA. This isn't just Bennington, Vermont and Vermont state. Again, you put Vermont in the title, Mike, and nobody's interested because we don't care. We don't matter. We're small, but we do. And we're going to lead the
because
way.
you got Bernie Sanders possibly running for president again. He's their go-to guy when they want to corrupt the system. Ocasio-Cortez is his running mate, I guess. I don't know.
Right.
She's probably going to end up in prison. Now you have exposed him as maybe not being Bernie Sanders anymore, because he came to an event and there was seemed like a lot of marshals were around him. Maybe he had an ankle bracelet on, but and the same thing with your governor, Jim Scott. So there's lots of Phil Scott. Yeah. So there's lots of problems there.
Well, and Bernie, again, this is more optics. Again, Michael, when we started this, I don't know how we've been friends for a long time and doing this. But when we first got going, even 6-8 years ago, nobody knew where Vermont was. Remember? Yeah. They do now. It's on the map. And I say I had something to do with that. I'd like to think that I did. But now, like Bernie Sanders going on tour with the punk transgender rock band talking about, blasphemy and all these things. And it's optics. So people like Bernie and Becca Ballant and bringing out your little scrappy inner lesbian. Remember, again, they're calling out, 86, 47, the same thing, all these people. Those are optics. Those are to get you guys to look. And what they're doing, I think that's your perp walk. That's what are these guys going to say? Just like now with the green energy lie. That kind of went away. What happened to why everybody's against
it? You exposed that one group, that transgender, hits assassination team that he's buds with, that basically assassinated a guy there in Vermont, a border patrol guy.
Right. Well, and that cult, again, if it was founded in North Carolina, CIA, blah blah blah, they're all college age, they're all genius. These are MK Ultra paid people, right? But I think, again, what happened in Arizona the other day is a milestone. And I know I'm manifesting the shit myself if I have to. Hopefully you guys will help me. I think it's going to go state to state. I think that's going to happen in every state. I think they're actually going after CPS and the judges. And that is the underlier. That is, they're responsible. Goes right back to the bar. And I mean, all the way back to the Magna Carta and before. The definition of Esquire. We talked about this, Mike. It's the King's militia. We're all celebrating. My grandfather, Harry, everybody was like, yeah, we did it. And we were watching all the redcoats get on the boat. We should have been looking and see who got off the boats. because it was the Esquires, the King's Militia, and they became our government, they became our media, they became our politicians, and it's a corporation. And what you're watching on TV right now is not real. You want to know why Canada's becoming a 51st state? Norman Travesty and Brad Wozni. You know Brad.
Oh, yeah.
I signed it with Laura Eisenhower over here. I think Ricardo Bassi over in Australia, France, 11 First Nation tribes. We had a couple hundred, military generals, including ex-General Vallely, right?
Yep.
That's why Canada.
He wrote an excellent article on Alberta becoming the 51st state. And then if that happens, because they're so much like America, Quebec is not going to, it's not going to happen with Quebec. They're completely compromised, and they use all the funding that they get from Alberta tar sands and, the crops and everything. They basically take all that money. It doesn't go back to Alberta, and it doesn't go back to Saskatchewan and all the other, provinces.
They don't have a choice.
It goes right to Quebec, and they hoard it. And then they make these laws that doesn't represent the people of those provinces at all. United States is perfectly positioned to represent them, and there's a very good chance that could happen.
I say let's just take them over. What do they got? Like 3 tanks and a canoe? No, I'm only kidding.
I know, right?
Make it all into a big state park, and I've had this vision for a long time. Our Canadian brothers and sisters up there, they're resisting it right now because of the fear of the unknown. They were always America. Canada's not a country. Norman Travers proved that. They're not a country. They were never a country. They never had wars. They never had battles. There's no Declaration of Independence, or there's nothing. They're a corporation that was formed in Washington, D.C. They're currently owned by Texas. Okay? They're not a country. Wow. They were never a country. Stop resisting this shit. People are afraid. Well, it's the same with, Trump, good, bad, or ugly, whether you like him. Don't like him. I love the brand and the direction. My feelings there too. I'm watching everybody. I don't trust anybody. But one man cannot fix this broken system. One man can't do it, but one man can destroy it. And I'll leave it at that, because I think that's what you're watching. All my liberal friends and Democrats, they're worried. Oh my God, he's destroying the country. Yup. That's why I hired him, because our country's broken and we can't fix it. We got to do over it. And that's coming too. We've got the policies. We got, again, the healing technologies, from the wave watch to the stem cells there's a million different things coming. Free energy's here, the ether. Why are we talking about oil and, Greenland? Maybe because it's the center of the earth. I gotta be crazy before we leave, Michael. So I think these things are coming, but that child trafficking is going to be the great unifier. I've said that for a long time too. It's happening in Arizona. Big shout out to Michelle Swinick. She proved the election fraud in 2024 in Arizona, and we did in Vermont. And guys, this hasn't gone away. 2020 isn't over, believe it or not. It just takes time, because we're talking about tens of millions of people, and it has to be covert. That's why that means secret. That's why they don't know. So unplug, get away from this thing. This personal tracking device that you voluntarily carry around every day, in the computers and the news. And you got to tune into Michael Jaco, the Grassroots Warrior Network, Lindell's Network, Bless News TV. We can go through a whole bunch of people. We're becoming the media. We're becoming education. We're becoming medical. We're about to become judicial. That's going to be scary when we get to that level. And I think that's where we get military involvement. My theory is we've been under military control since 2021. Derek Johnson and all of his executive orders and all those things, I think, are 100% right. I don't know if that's Trump anymore. That's the truth. I don't know if that's Trump. We haven't seen Trump in a long time. He's doubling the electrical supply for 5G. He's, $500 billion for mRNA and nanotechnology. I'm hoping the Trump brand is just making us look at those things. And then again, by looking, we're bringing it into the light, and it's all darkness cannot exist into the light. So it's
now, the judicial side, if you look at Russell Brand, he was the darling of, social media, and UK loved him because he's one of their own. And then he spoke out against, the COVID, vaccination stuff. And that's when they turned against him. And now they're trying to get him on rape charges, indecent assault and sexual assault, between 1999 and 2005. Wow, that's like over 20 years ago. They're trying to get him with charges from 20 years ago. So he doesn't stand a chance against that system. That system would have been here in America if Trump hadn't been elected. Many of us would have been standing trial probably, or in concentration camps at this point.
What happened to Russell's tattoos? The 33 on his wrist, or the pyramids and all those what happened to those tattoos, Mike? You know?
Yeah, they probably were taken off, or somebody else has replaced them. Who knows?
I think Russell's gone a long time ago, and then they used.
I think so too. I think somebody else replaced him, and they know that. That's why they're trying to go after him. So,
it's a perfect.
What happened to our boy? So.
It's a perfect setup because they use the Russell brand. They used the brand. Russell Brand turned around because he was popular and everybody loved him in England and America and all over the world.
It's
and
like Elon, yeah,
and all of a sudden
exactly.
He came out and he was giving us the dirt, or whoever that was, wearing a Russell Brand mask and no tattoos, and he was giving us all the dirt. And now what you're getting is the public disclosure that 20 years ago, Russell Brand was a pervert, a creep, a satanic worshiper, more than likely. He's probably long gone, like Oprah and Ellen and Jay-Z and Beyonce and Will Smith and all the Hollywood warrants. You reported them 5 years ago, Mike. I helped you. Those people are gone. You're getting the public optics. That news is not for us. I don't know how to tell people that. That's what I said. What you're seeing right now is a lie. It's theater. It's to sway the minds of the masses. I hate that the good guys are using the same tactics as the bad guys, but that's what they're doing. You were supposed to see Bumbling, Stumbling Joe. That's a patriot, whoever that actor is. Can you imagine? Hey, Mike, you're a CIA, Navy SEAL type guy. We need you to put on a mask and pretend to be Joe Biden and go out there and look like a fool. That's almost a suicide mission. I go, I don't know, Chief. That's a tough one. You know what I mean? I think somebody actually did that. If they're even real. And right now we're getting into the bio chips and the implants and technology. And again, Elon Brand, that's not Elon either. The upside down crosses, the symbology, all these things.
So, I mean, you look at the timeline with Russell Brand, Katy Perry, their breakup. Katy Perry is, I don't know about her. She's like involved with cannibalism or something, but that's all being exposed too. All this stuff is being exposed.
I know. That's what I'm saying. The topics that I never imagined. And again, even just the fact that there's a search warrant in mainstream media for Oprah. That, you guys know where that leads. That's adrenochrome. That's, again, right back to Vermont State. Martine Rothblatt, right? Again, the transhumanistic, transgender, United Nations, WEO, WHF. That's the Burlington Airport. Oh, sorry. Patrick Leahy International Airport, right? Kathy O'Brien, congressional testimony. The shit was real. Witchcraft is real. Like demons, these people conjure demons. Your House representative, your senator. I know this sounds nuts. They have satanic rituals in their basement. They're conjuring demons, Salem witch trials, and all these, especially here in New England. We're steep in that stuff. The biggest trick of the devil was to convince us that he wasn't real. And I think this is very spiritual. And I think it's, again, the people that are standing right now, this is so much of a calling. I know you feel this way. I feel this way. Everybody I've met that's in this movement, if you will, and there's billions of us, by the way, worldwide. I feel like I was sent by God. This is my path. This is my mission. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm somehow still alive. I don't even know how sometimes, but it's because of God. God put me where I am. And I was the last guy to ever think that. I mean, I successfully avoided religion and politics my whole life, like most sane people.
I think because we disclose truths, God's truths, it gives us protection because they're about falsity, falsifying information, and flipping it, and they can't go after the people that expose truth because it jeopardizes their whole existence. I think that's one of the reasons why. But who knows? Who knows?
Well, another thing, again, we were talking about Arizona that I want to talk about. Sheriff Richard Mack, again, stood up against constitutional orders and won in the Supreme Court. Pretty famous guy. He started the Constitutional Sheriff and Peace Officers Association. Up here in Vermont, we got the Vermont Sheriff's Association. matching EIN with the judge, money laundering, bad sheriffs, the whole bit. Good news for Vermonters. Anybody that sees this, I, Kevin Hoyt, personally, just a regular citizen, nothing to do with politics. We're bringing Sheriff Mack to Vermont State with the Constitutional Sheriff's Association in July. So again, this is coming out of my own pocket. I'm paying for his travel expenses. Sheriff Mack isn't even getting paid. There's no speaking fees. There's no nothing, but he's asking for help getting here. I would love to raise some funds and actually pay him for his time. It'd be great if it didn't have to come out of my pocket this time, but I'm willing. I'm paying up front. We're going to be fundraising. I don't even know the date yet. I don't know when this thing's going to happen. Again, some of the speakers we've got lined up right now, or I'm trying to get lined up to make the public event, is going to be pretty big. And we don't get those in New England. So if you're in any of the New England states, New York, again, Mass, Vermont, even Connecticut's not that far away. We're going to have something in July here in Vermont State. Sheriff Mack's going to have a personal meeting with law enforcement. He's going to meet with our sheriffs and our sheriff deputies. He's going to tell them about the Constitution and teach them the law and how to fight and arrest our criminal leadership. And then he's going to have a public one is the next day, where we're going to actually tell the people what Sheriff Mack told the sheriffs. That's probably a good idea. And then I think we're going to have some incredible guests if I get my way. Again, it's about 4 days old. We don't even have a date or a location yet, but already the people that are jumping on this, and people are happy about that. It turns out Vermonters like the Constitution and law and order. What do you know, Mike? Maybe we'll get it for a change.
Yeah. Well, some of these sheriffs have done a really good job, especially from Arizona. Arizona was really attacked. Joe Arpaio exposed Obama's fake birth certificate, and that really cost him. And then a lot of these sheriffs that come out and go against the deep state, they get hammered. So it's very tough to play this game.
Well, that's where I said it's law enforcement, lawfare, political lawfare, retaliatory. This is frivolous, crazy lawsuits. You guys saw, Donald Trump. I'm just Kevin from Bennington, but because of the information I have and the questions I asked, I'm public enemy number one. Don't Google me, right? Looks really, really bad because they control the media and the courts and thing. But it's amazing. I've not, I almost just said I don't have a criminal record, but I do. I have a violation of abuse prevention order for saying a name and trying to report felony gun crimes. I proved in court that the order was illegal. They used what was called the collateral bar rule and says it doesn't matter if it's illegal. It doesn't matter what the order says. We're only here to see if Kevin broke it. It's an unwinnable case, right? So I took a plea deal, sweet plea deal, actually. They spent $1 million trying to lock me up over 3 years. I paid my $50 fine, all you taxpayers. Paid my $50. It's CRJ. It's got to match an EIN with the judge. That's the thing, too, with, if they're stealing your children, sometimes it's not just to steal your child and take them and traffic them. That happens so often. But a lot of times it's just the luge. It's just what it does to the child, to the parents, to the family and the community. It affects our whole society. So usually what they're going to do if they don't want to just steal your child is you'll have two parents who are in the middle of a divorce. I'm just going to use typical terms. They usually go with the bad parent. That's who gets the child. And then the good parent spends the next year, 2, 5, 10, the rest of their life because it's their child. They spend jumping through these hoops at PAVE and Sunrise and CRJ and all these matching EIN numbers. They go right back to the judge that ordered you to do it. They don't care about the kid. They don't care how long this process takes. They don't care about the disruption, what it does to the child, the developmental, again, the foundation for these children. And then that works as an MK Ultra. A lot of women in Vermont State, and I'm sure around the world, their trauma, their MK Ultra trauma, is the state keeps stealing their children. That usually makes them want to get high, right? Again, drugs, that's a setup. I can connect the drug dealers with my prosecutor. The problem is, who are you going to give it to? My sheriff? I'm giving it to my new sheriff. I'm still holding out and hoping he's a good guy. I'm giving it to the feds. I'm giving it to DOJ and Homeland Security. I don't know. I'm giving it to you, whoever's watching. What are you going to do about it, man? You cool with that? You're going to let them take your money? That's fine. Take your guns? That's cool. How about your kids? That's why they want your guns. You find out what they've been doing to your children, you're going to want to shoot somebody, and that's the God's honest truth. So don't do that. That's what they want to. We get them in law and order, and it's as simple as exposing these. We know the judges now, and you guys do too. If you're watching this show, you've been abused by the system. I don't care who your lover is or your God or your hair color, skin color. You've been abused. You've been taken advantage of, been lied to. More than likely, you've had your kids taken. 1 in 4 families, 800,000 missing kids in the United States. It's your government. That's what we can't afford anymore either. I'm getting fired up now, Mike. So I'm raising hell in all the select board meetings, doing all these other things that got me arrested again. But I'll do that. I'll die for this. This is our kids, guys. If we can't take care of our most vulnerable, we lost the battle already. Some things, Mike, you said this. Some things are worth dying for. You freaked me out when you said it.
Yeah.
Again, I'm scared
Well,
for my life.
you've done a lot of good work. I mean, you've exposed a lot of stuff. Remember Mike Gill? Mike Gill exposed Sununu. Sununu lost his race. You have Kelly Oyet. I don't know. What do you think of Kelly Oyet? Is she? Am I pronouncing her name right?
Yeah, I think everybody's bad. I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. If you're on the board, if you're a player on the board right now, you're a bad guy. How'd you get there? That was my determination way back on the election audit. Again, 2019. That was a long time ago. I can prove 60 to 70% fraud, trace it back at least to 1975, released over 500 fraudulent names in a county of 5,500 people. That was just the A's and half the B's alphabetically. This is massive. You guys have no idea how big this is. And it's not just your elected officials. It's the guy you go to church with, the guy that lives 2 farms down. The foster parent system is an incredible part of this. They have placeholders. Everybody in Bennington, Vermont that I know, they're like, well, my grandmother's a foster parent. She ran hundreds of kids through her house. What happens to those kids? All you foster parents out there, think about this, because I think a few of you are good guys trying to help kids. Kids need our help, but the court steals them. They give them to a foster home for 6 months or a year. That's usually where they divide the family and separate the siblings. And then they go back to the system. And then they go to another state and another court and they jump around and the parents go broke or they end up in jail or they can't keep up. They lose track of the kids and then the kid disappears. 2,400 children a month, a month. 2,400 children a month disappear from state custody nationwide. 2,400 children. The kid disappears and the state disappears from your state, from my state. Why are we talking about fucking green energy? Why are we talking about, assassinations? It's a concern if somebody tries to assassinate the president. We're just arguing and talking. Now everybody's all hyped up because Comey posted 86-47. How about the children that they're taking today?
Yeah.
Tens of thousands. Are you anybody going to get upset about that? You guys going to bitch about your sidewalks not being painted? Like how many? You're going to rename the Cleveland Indians Aunt Jemima. If Aunt Jemima was my aunt, I would be proud of that. She earned and worked and made that minority family millions of dollars, I'm sure, over the years in royalties, right? Not anymore. Cabal stole that too. If you're rich, you think you're escapable. You don't end rich, do you? You die a poor man. Everybody, I don't care who you are, unless you're Cabal, then it stays in that family bloodline. I think they're trafficking our children with bloodlines as well. Again, Kathy O'Brien talks about how MK Ultra is hereditary. If you guys know someone who's had their child taken, think about it. It's not just them. It's their mother and their aunt and their grandmother and everybody in that family before them. I think people are actually marked to be trafficked. They're farming us. Sounds nuts, but that's my position, and I'm going to stop it if I get my way. Wheel, Michael, I'm out of breath. You got me all fired up.
All right. Well, Kevin, how can people reach you if they want to?
Again, Kevin Hoyt, Hoyt, VT is my channel on Rumble. The Grassroots Warrior Network. Again, I don't have a show or nothing. It's just Kevin Hoyt. I'm everywhere, whether it's Truth Social or Facebook or Telegram. I'm still a Facebook guy. That's the best place to reach me probably. Or great shows like Intuitive Warrior with Michael Jaco. Thanks for having me, Mike. I love you. Appreciate you.
Yep. Love you, man. And lots of love to everyone out there. Stay in the love vibration. We'll see you guys next time.
See ya.